So here we are on our Good Friday. It's a day we gather to see the cross, and see Jesus on the cross and ponder and take some time there. It's a day where we, at least in my thinking, we don't want to jump too far ahead yet and just put a good end on it, but pause here for a time, right here on this day. The cross, as you know, is this just awful instrument of torture and humiliation. Cicero, one of the greatest Roman leaders, who was also an orator and a poet, said this. He said, "The cross is a fate so low that no well-bred person should even mention it." Don't even talk about it. Don't even talk about it. It was the fate given to only the worst people. There was two classes of people that would qualify for Roman crucifixion, could qualify for Roman crucifixion. One is awful slaves that have done something terrible, so slaves. And then foreigners. No Roman citizen could be crucified. It's too low. So foreigners who have led an insurrection could be crucified. That's pretty much it. Of course, that insurrection piece was why they wanted to try Jesus to be a king, because that would be an insurrection, trying to come up in a land occupied and ruled by Rome and trying to be a king. That's insurrection, leading a revolt. To be a revolutionary. Yeah, revolutionaries. Of course, one person's revolutionary is another person's terrorist, isn't it? That's what it is. Which gets us to something you read in Scripture sometimes. In the other Gospels, it talks about Jesus was crucified between two bandits or two thieves. Now, if you think about that for a second, there's a problem, isn't there? You can't crucify someone for being a bandit or a thief, and that's because our translation is wrong, basically. The word for bandit or thief, it works for that, the Greek word there, but it also is a word that is used for those who lead insurrections or terrorists. Jesus was crucified between two terrorists. He was marked among them. It gets you a sense of how huge this sentence was against him, how awful and humiliating to be counted among those kind of folks this sentence was, this crucifixion was. So we get a sense of the nails and the suffering that had to go with it, to pull up, to get your breath, to finally suffocate, not getting your breath, all those good. And they stuck them by the roads. They didn't stick them and hide them out somewhere. They put them right in your face. You had to walk by them getting in and out of the city. It's a fate so low that no well-bred person should even mention it. Yeah, here we are today. Not only mentioning it, but focusing on it. We keep it in front of us week after week. It is the main symbol of our lives as Christians, the cross. We lift that thing up and say, this is it. In fact, in John's Gospel, it talks about the cross being his moment of glory. Pastor Daniel talked about how Jesus talked about his hour is coming. Finally, he said, the hour is now here that I'm going to be glorified. And that was the cross. It's his moment of glory. Glory. Wait a second. Now, when I think of glory, I think maybe of a sunrise, where the light's kicking up and there's just colors galore. That's a glorious sunrise. Or maybe a victory where, some team has come in and just, knocked them out with a great execution and everything else. That was a glorious victory. I think of glory, I think of things like beauty, power. When Jesus was doing miracles in John's Gospel, if you think about it, he called them signs in John's Gospel. He does the signs. And then he says after that, the comment after that is, he was showing his glory. The glory was there in these miracles. So you think of something like Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, and whoa, that is kind of glorious. That's, again, the sense of the divine presence in and through Jesus showing up in that moment. But when we think of the raising of Lazarus, there's a lot of power to that, isn't there? I mean, that gets the power thing going again. They think, well, that's power. Glory is often associated with a lot of power being exercised in a way we appreciate. Power. He raised Lazarus from the dead. And it brings us, and I think that's one of the ways we measure glory, brings us to a place of awe and wonder. That's the hope of glory. We see the sun rise and the beautiful colors. It's awe and wonder. We see the strength of that team and their execution, all the things they do right. And we think, man, that's glorious. Look at that. Look at them, how they do that. Look at Jesus. He raised Lazarus from the dead with power. Which brings us back to the cross, doesn't it? The cross is ugly. The epitome of ugly. It's just stunningly grotesque. And when we think of the cross, it's all weakness. It's about weakness. The guy that lost. The guy that couldn't, muster anything up. The guy that's a loser who the other people have beaten. That's all about weakness. And it's the hour of his glory. How does that work? His cross, the hour of his glory. With all its ugliness, with all its showing the defeated, the loser, the weak person. Somehow we're saying it's all glory. Of course, that gets to that main theme of Jesus. It's about love, isn't it? And you could look at even Lazarus' resurrection, as much as there's power there that gets us to awe and wonder. Hopefully we see past that to the love. A love for Lazarus, to his sisters, to the community, to a revealing of God's presence there. And maybe that's why the height of his glory is the cross. There ain't no power there at all, is there? No beauty there. In fact, the love shines maybe even brighter against the ugliness and the weakness. Because that's all you got left. Nothing more there, is there? No greater love has anyone than this. They lay down their lives for others. And we just see how far God goes here. In John, for God so loved the world that he gave to this hour of glory, the ugliness, the weakness, but also the love. For God so loved the world that he gave to this moment here. And so today we have that mix of things as we gather around this cross, as we take these moments. We first see the ugliness, the weakness. Remember the pain and go against Cicero and say, no, we got to look. We need to look. But also maybe get a little hint of a love that has great glory for us. A love from God to you and me.